Welcome back to my inner sanctum. I'm your hostess, Countess Elizabeth, mistress of the macabre. Humans like to think of themselves as the apex predator. While it is true that humans are very dangerous, out in the wild and without a weapon, they stand no match against a grizzly. Grizzly bears are the pinnacle of the animal world and the most powerful omnivores in North America, but paradoxically, too often viewed as relatively safe. Tourist spectacles. Well, this tale will show how wrong that false sense of safety really is. Today's tale, we will discover what happened on what is known as the Night of the Grizzlies. So, let us snuggle in our sleeping bags and get close to the campfire so we can explore our grotesque curiosity. The events that unfolded happened within the Glacier National Park in Montana. Since the opening of Glacier National Park in 1910, there were no reported fatal bear attacks. That was until one summer night in 1967, when two grizzlies in two remote areas of the park attacked campers and killed two young women. This true and tragic story of that night and how it eventually influenced the fate of the grizzly bear in the continental United States is the subject of the novel Night of the Grizzlies by Jack Olson. This story began on the afternoon of August 12, 1967, when 7 young park employees set off on long hikes for overnight camping. The night of August 12th through the 13th was marked by lightning, which led some to speculate the bears were agitated by the stormy weather. The first attack was reported around midnight at the Granite Park Chalet. Julie Helgelson, 19, of Albert Lee, Minnesota, was camping with her boyfriend, Roy Ducat, approximately a fourth of a mile or 0.40 kilometers away from the chalet. Their campsite was close to the trail established by bears feeding on the chalet's garbage. Ducat was awakened by Helgelson, who whispered a bear was nearby, and they should stay as still as possible. Despite this, the bear approached them and mauled them both. After the fact, experts thought the bears may have mistaken the sleeping bags for food containers. When the bear turned away from Ducat to Helgelson, Ducat ran to a nearby group of campers for help. The bear dragged Helgelson into the woods as she screamed. Although she was eventually found alive 400 feet or 120 meters from their original campsite, she later died of her wounds at the chalet. The second attack was reported around 4 a.m. at Trout Lake. Michelle Coons, 19, of San Diego, California, had gone camping there with 4 friends. All 5 of them worked at Lake McDonald Lodge. That area was known to be the territory of a sow bear that fed on garbage at Kelly's Camp, a privately owned facility that predated the establishment of the park. Kelly's Camp is located nearby at the north end of Lake McDonald. The sow bear was characterized as not quite right and had previously chased a group of Girl Scouts the week prior to the attacks. One camper awoke with the bear sniffing her sleeping bag, but remained still and the bear moved on. When the bear was investigating Coons, Coons woke up and screamed. The other 4 campers were able to escape by climbing trees, but the zipper on Coons' sleeping bag was stuck and the bear dragged her approximately 300 feet or 91 meters away from the campsite. The frightened campers stayed in the trees for more than 2 hours and ran to the nearest ranger station at dawn, where they reported the attack. On orders from park management, rangers were armed and told to shoot any bear they found at Trout Lake and Granite Park Chalet. In total, 4 bears were shot and killed by Monday, August 14th. The first 2, which had become habituated to rummage through the Granite Park Chalet trash, were killed on August 13th. 2 rangers shot a bear at a ranger station near Trout Lake on August 14th. A postmortem examination of the stomach contents conclusively identified it as a bear that had killed Coons. The bear was emaciated and was also found to have glass in its gums. The last bear was killed at the chalet. She was a sow with 2 cubs, and was blamed for Hegelson's death because of the presence of blood on her paws. During the shooting, one of the cubs was injured but escaped. For everyone involved, it was an unforgettable night of crisis, intense fear, bravery, and ultimately, grief. Several park rangers had previously filed a report after observing on August 9th that bears were feeding on garbage generated by the Granite Park Chalet and campers. This practice of allowing bears to eat the garbage was possibly a deliberate attempt to attract tourists, as the main attraction at the chalet were the Grizzlies. Although a gas-fired incinerator had been installed in 1966, it was inadequately sized, and the caretaker resumed dumping garbage in the gully behind the chalet shortly after opening for the summer season. The caretaker was instructed not to feed the bears, but he felt that those instructions weren't serious and kept on with the practice. Seasonal residents at Kelly's camp had reported seeing an emaciated and scrawny grizzly bear that was unusually aggressive for food, foraging among their garbage in June 1967. The bear had moved to Trout Lake by August. The campground at Trout Lake looked like a battlefield strewn with K-rations, according to Olson. Rangers took nearly 20 bags of garbage out of the site by helicopter a few weeks later. There are a few theories as to why the bears attacked the campers, as a bear attack was something that had never happened before in the park. One theory postulated the bears were attracted by odors associated with menstruation, and brochures were circulated to warn menstruating women from entering bear territory. Seriously, that's something that they actually had brochures on. No anecdotal evidence was provided to substantiate the theory, and a 1991 study demonstrated that no bear showed appreciable interest in menstrual odors regardless of the bear's age, sex, reproductive status, or time of year. Well, at least we got that out of the way. Olson's book examines the most plausible explanation of the unlikely dual attacks, since no fatal grizzly attack had ever been recorded in the park's 57-year history prior to that night. One specialist at the time calculated the odds were greater than 1 in a million for a single attack, but the odds of 2 separate attacks in a 4-hour time span were beyond measure. These odds were calculated based on a 57-year history of no fatal attacks. However, future events would show grizzly attacks to become more common, as Olson explains, because of increased human presence in wilderness areas and decreased habitat for bears to live in, reaching a critical tipping point at the summer of 1967. As a result of the attacks, the first modern bear management policies were implemented, installing bear-proof garbage cans, separating campsite cooking areas from sleeping areas, stringing wire cables to allow campers to hang their food, and establishing a permitting process to track and limit the number of campers in the park. The book's name has become a popular name for the maulings of August 13th, and a documentary of the events was first shown on PBS in May 2010. The co-producer of the documentary claims, "It's a 43-year-old story with implications that are urgent today. The problem started with people feeding bears and leaving garbage out. There's still an issue, and if people don't learn from this historic event, more people and more bears will die. Bears and humans co-evolved," Doug Chadwick, author of True Grizz, comments to the documentary. "The challenge," Chadwick says, "is as grizzlies are learning to adapt to us, we have to learn about grizzlies. The night of the grizzlies was a night that we learned the hard way how little we knew about grizzlies." Well, that was truly a grotesque tale. I can't believe that the practice of this park would just allow bears to eat from the waste containers, and it had to take 2 people getting mauled to death for them to seriously consider bear-proof containers. I guess they thought, why not make it so this apex predator can come up and get more exposure to humans? And we also learned that bears aren't actually attracted to women's menstrual cycle, so I guess that myth is busted. We can only imagine the terror those people went through as the hungry beasts stalked the night and filled their bellies on those campers. May their souls rest in peace. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe, like, and share if you'd also like to keep exploring our grotesque curiosity. We'll meet again in the darkness of the night.